Welcome, everyone. Good afternoon. Thank you for coming out on this beautiful Saturday and joining us. Thank you, C-SPAN, who's recording us today, this wonderful event that we have at Book Passage with William Adler. My name is Johanna, your host, and as always, I'd like to begin by thanking all of you for supporting your local independent bookstore. Yay. Today, I'm very pleased to be introducing our very talented author, William Adler, author of The Land of Opportunity and Molly's Job. William's work has been also published in a variety of periodicals, including Esquire, Rolling Stone, and Mother Jones. In addition to our fabulous author, we are also very pleased to bring you local folk singer John Frommer, the recipient of the 2011 Joe Hill Lifetime Achievement Award. Yay. William Adler is here today to discuss his book, The Man Who Never Died, The Life, Times, and the Legacy of Joe Hill, American labor icon. This is an in-depth and extremely well-researched account of the 1914 murder conviction of Joe Hill, whom many considered falsely accused because of his connection with the industrial workers of the world. In The Man Who Never Died, William presents never-before-published evidence that strongly suggests that Joe Hill was, in fact, innocent. Gabriel Thompson of the Book and Rail writes, a fascinating and groundbreaking biography. Adler has used the life of Hill to provide a sweeping portrait of labor activism in the period leading up to World War I. So I think we're going to begin with John Frommer today, who's going to be delighting us with some music. So, welcome, John.
This is a song about Joe Hill that many people know. You're welcome to join in. Written by Alfred Hayes and Earl Robinson. I dreamed I saw Joe Hill last night. Life is you and me. Says I, but Joe, you're 10 years dead. I never died, says he. I never died, says he. The copper bosses killed you, Joe. They shot you, Joe, says I. Takes more than guns to kill a man, says Joe, I didn't die. Says Joe, I didn't die. In Salt Lake City, Joe says I am standing by my bed. They framed you on a murder charge, says Joe, I ain't dead. Says Joe, but I ain't dead. Standing there, big as life, smiling with his eyes, says Joe, what they forgot to kill went on to organize, went on to organize. From San Diego up to Maine, in every mine and mill, where working folks defend their rights, it's there to find Joe Hill. It's there you'll find Joe Hill. I dreamed I saw Joe Hill last night. Life is you and me, says I, but Joe, you're 10 years dead. I never died, says he. I never died, says he. Thank you.
John Frommer, everybody. Thank you very much, John. I just want to start by reading a brief excerpt from the introduction, and then I want to talk some more about the book, and then John's going to play some more music as well. The introduction is called Don't Waste Any Time Mourning. It was a funeral the likes of which Chicago had never seen. As early as dawn, they began gathering, a great singing swarm of humanity, tens of thousands of the city's dispossessed and disinherited. This is a quote. The ghetto, the slums, the lodging house quarters, and the manufacturing districts are buzzing with anticipation, the Chicago Daily Tribune reported that morning, adding that, quote, handbills in a dozen different languages had urged attendance at the rites. By 10 o'clock, when the service began, 5,000 celebrants, not just the poor, but also intellectual parlor radicals and leftists of many stripes, including anarchists, unionists, socialists, nihilists, and ordinary, non-denominational wage slaves. Bums and hobos generally, of whom less than 10% were American, the New York Times sniffed, were packed into every seat and wedged into every cranny along the back and side walls of the West Side Auditorium. It was Thursday, November 25th, 1915, an unseasonably warm Thanksgiving morning. Already the temperature had climbed into the 50s, and the windows of the great second-floor hall were opened wide, and verse after verse, song after song, cascaded outside the block-long building. Outside the West Side Auditorium, at the intersection of Taylor and South Racine, a milling and singing throng. One writer called it a mob of 30,000 people and reported the streets jammed from curb to curb for over a mile, and all traffic at a halt, echoed the verses resounding from the upstairs hall. As the song built to its final verse, the mighty street chorale swelled to a crescendo. Workers of the world, awaken, rise in all your splendid might. Take the wealth that you are making, it belongs to you by right. No one will for bread be crying. We'll have freedom, love, and health when the grand red flag is flying in the workers' commonwealth. The grand red flag belonged to their union, the industrial workers of the world. A union, yes, but it might better be described in its own vernacular as a loose confederation of work stiffs and bindle bums, hard rock miners and muckers, timber beasts, lint heads, shovel stiffs and straw cats, fruit tramps, dock wallopers, pond monkeys, sewer hogs, and stump ranchers. These were people with nothing to lose, unskilled transients who slung their bindles on their backs and beat their way through hobo jungles and rail yards to cities for the promise of work, who squandered their last dollars on employment agents who cheated them out of jobs, wages, and their dignity, who lived in wretched tent camps or in vermin-infested bunkhouses, sometimes with as many as 500 men packed and stacked like cordwood. These were men who labored 12 hours or more daily, 7 days a week, in workplaces as unsafe and unhealthy as their sleeping quarters, and who, when they dared protest those conditions, were, the fortunate ones, merely fired and blacklisted. The funeral service on that warm Thanksgiving day in Chicago was testimony to the power of song, a power the I.W.W. had recognized right from its start. We have been naught, the delegates to the 1905 founding convention sang. We shall be all. Wobbly sang in jails, on picket lines, in fields, factories, and mines, in train yards and city streets and hobo jungles. A Swedish emigre named Joe Hill wrote their songs. Not all of them, of course, but it was he, says the historian Joyce Kornblue, who more than any other one writer had made the I.W.W. a singing movement. The songs were scathing critiques of capitalism, blunt, defiant, satirical, wry, cocky, and distinctly Hill. But Joe Hill, the I.W.W.'s beloved troubadour of dissent, had written his last. 6 days earlier, at the age of 36, he had been silenced, executed by a Utah firing squad. I was attracted to this story initially as a murder mystery, a whodunit, because if Joe Hill didn't do it, as so many thousands of people, hundreds of thousands of people, maybe millions around the world believed at that time in 1915, then I wanted to find out, if possible, who did do it. And if he didn't do it, I was curious about why so many people believed he was innocent. So that was my initial impetus.